Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into the AP Film Room, a playoff edition of the show tonight. Appreciate you joining us on a later edition, a little late night action for you, AP at night, as you will. It is me, Ron Kopp Jr., the lead analyst at the site. As always, I'm with my guy, Caleb James. We're missing Nate Christensen right now, and, I got to put my hand up. We're going a little later than we were scheduled. And that's on my end, and we'll see if Nate pops in. Caleb, I don't know. I'm feeling like Nate. Nate could give us a little surprise and give us some breakdowns. But either way, Caleb, we got some good stuff tonight because we are going to be looking ahead to the Dolphins game because that's the big thing, right? But we also got a few things to take away from Week 18 too. But first of all, I don't know. We're both going to be at Arrowhead Saturday. How are the vibes, Caleb, going into the playoffs?
Man, I think the vibes are a little bit better than they were some of the time, like early in the month of December. The holidays are over. We're kind of settling back into the groove of things here a little bit, and hopefully so are the Chiefs. But I've been looking at some stuff. They're saying this could be the fifth coldest game in NFL history.
Yeah.
Saturday night at Arrowhead might be 0 degrees at kickoff with a negative wind chill real feel. So I don't know. I'll be curious to see. I'm gonna be layered up in there, dude. I'm gonna have on the coveralls, stocking hats, face masks. We're gonna have on everything.
Yeah, luckily, I know you and I as well. We've had some experience with these kind of games. We've done this a time or two. But you're right, it is going to be freezing. But I don't know, man. You can't miss Tyreek coming back to Arrowhead in a big game playoff moment, do or die. I don't know. With Justin Houston, Melvin Ingram, Emmanuel Ogbah now too. Man, we're talking about some electricity, some energy coming from that Dolphin sideline, looking for the upset. So I don't know. I'm fired up. And before we get into it again, PSA, Chiefs Kingdom. If you're on the fence about going Saturday night, get some hand warmers, bundle up, get a nice gator. Get some socks. Get a nice pair of boots. Get your cardboard. Get your carpet samples. But get out there, man. Hey, if you need carpet samples, I got you. I that's what I do. I sell carpet. So if you need one, hit me up. I need no excuses. Get out there, Arrowhead. Caleb and I will be out there. We want to see you out there too. But all right, Caleb, let's get into it though, because we do want to get into that Chiefs Dolphins talk. I will say shout out Jacob on YouTube. He said let's go out at the gate. And we got some Twitter comments too. Yeah, on Twitter we got that weather will affect Miami. Before we get into it, Caleb, don't you think just naturally like Tua, especially someone that doesn't get much cold weather, like that's going to be a lot to overcome for them.
It is, and honestly, the Chiefs, the weather's not that cold yet. And really, it's been like, we just had a little bit of a snow the other day, but really the Chiefs are getting a chance to practice outdoors and start to get a feel. There's no real way the Dolphins can replicate that kind of chill. Last time the Chiefs played in this cold a game was Christmas Eve last year, extremely cold game versus the Seahawks. It was like a noon kickoff, though. This year's going to be a lot different, but, that day last year was bitter and frigid. I think there's a reason why they called Travis Kelce the Big Yeti, though. He's made comments before that sometimes the early season games aren't his favorite, but there's a reason why I believe he has, he's caught a touchdown pass in like the last 7 playoff games he's played. He's Mr. January. So, I do think the weather could affect Tua a little bit here. Tyreek's played in this kind of stuff before. I don't know if Waddle's ever played in this kind of conditions either.
Yeah, I saw something where like Tua hasn't even, and I think maybe he just hasn't won a game in degrees under 40 degrees, but he didn't play in that Buffalo playoff game last year. That was really cold. That was Skylar Thompson. So maybe there is something to that. But let's look back at Week 18 though, real quick, Caleb, because I do think there's a few takeaways you could take from the offensive side. You're going to look at one, but for me, I did want to highlight McCole Hardman because I do think with this Chiefs receiving core just begging for someone to step up, make plays outside of Rashee Rice. I think McCole gave us something to show on Sunday, and I definitely picked the wrong play, but that's okay because this also shows kind of what I was impressed with McCole on Sunday was just kind of play strength, something that we haven't seen from McCole in his career. What you see here is he works across the face of the linebacker on the slant, just trying to get open into, across into the other side to get into that window. But Kendricks plays it well. The ball's way behind him, so he does have to reach back, but he secures it, grabs it through contact, breaks the tackle here. And then this is actually in the 2-minute drill, so it's a good job of him getting all the way to the sideline, getting out of bounds. And so it was the play strength that I was mostly impressed with, and I'm going to show it on another play here, because it was this 37-yard gain that was kind of the highlight of the play. But we've seen him, make plays on deep passes before. That's nothing necessarily new, but it's just the way here that he's able to catch through the contact of the trailing defender. He does a really good job, and you'll see it in the end zone angle. Asante Samuel Jr. does a pretty good job of punching at that ball. Because he does get beat across the field, right? So he's punching at that ball, trying to rip it out. And McColl not only secures it, rips it away, but he keeps running for another 15 or 10, 15 yards, So that was just something that, again, we don't see a lot of play strength from these Chiefs receivers outside of, Rashee Rice. And so it's good to see McColl doing a little bit of that. But he also had some route running ability too, that you saw on this third down play early. He's manned up in the slot, needs to create separation on the slant. So does a really good job on the release of showing like he's going to release outside, go vertical, and then quickly swimming back in. And then that creates the necessary separation for the first down. So even a really good route by McColl. So, good play strength, just good playmaking from the slot. And that's something that they need, because they obviously don't trust Tony, right? He was someone that kind of didn't even get playing time after that New England debacle, right? He hasn't really seen much what PT, and they call it injury, but I think you could say he's injured every week. But I don't know, Caleb, what do you think about McColl's game and I guess just Tony in general and the slot position in general?
It's wild card weekend, and we're talking about a potential McCole Hardman being a key contributor. Things are getting a little weird right now, but I mean, I just don't know if it's too little too late. Like, I don't know if that performance was just the product of him coming in and, just being all energized, having a lot of rest and being juiced up for, his first game back. I don't know if that, I don't know if that's going to translate over into the actual wild card round, anything they're going to do. I hope it does. Cause if we can get, McCole Hardman 5 catches for 70 yards, that's a big addition to the offense. I don't know, maybe, and honestly, one thing we didn't see out of McColl, they didn't really run any sweeps with him or anything like that. They didn't run any of their trick plays or anything, but maybe he's going to come into the game with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder that, he's going against Tyreek. McColl didn't play in the first matchup maybe against him, but maybe he'll just have something he wants to show there. So, it could be too little too late. I'd expect a few gadgety type plays from McColl for sure, but hopefully we can see him start to kind of, pick it up a little bit, and hopefully elevate the offense.
Hey, McCole Hardman's the only wide receiver on this team that has been here for both Super Bowl runs. It's pretty easy to, or just kind of amazing to me that he's a veteran. Like, he's actually a true kind of veteran. He's been through championship runs. He's been through championship losses. He's been through, he's seen kind of it all as on this team. So, there is something to that once you get to the postseason. So I'd be interested to see if that Week 18 game gave him any momentum. But there was something else about Week 18 that was interesting, Caleb, and you're going to show us, because this may be something that we don't want to necessarily root for, right, to see necessarily in the postseason. But hey, we've seen crazy stuff happen, and we got to be prepared. And so go ahead and tell us what you got.
No, and I'll pull it up, but what I'm going to show is some clips. Joe Tooney actually started the game at left tackle. It's because Allegretti was snapping. So basically they were just trying to make sure that he could just go out there and play tackle, just for a snap, so that Allegretti could get just a little bit of run with Gabbert there and also maintain his starting streak. And then they took him out, but Taylor and Wanya both go down. Sounds like Wanya is going to be out for an extended period of time, probably out this week with a concussion. He hasn't practiced. Tomorrow, Thursday, is going to be the big day to look at the injury report and see who's going to play and who's not, because everything's moved up a day. But they moved Joe Tooney to left tackle, and we haven't seen him out there in a game situation since 2021 against the Bengals, or I believe it was the first or second day of 2022, my bad. But they put him in, and, early on you could see he's got some adjustments to make. He is not the most vertical here, and he still kind of looks like he's trying to set his guard. but really he does a fine job. It's a quick pass, so nothing really, overly, nothing really overanalyzed there. But he kind of got put into a bad spot a little bit because he was going against Khalil Mack, who will probably be in the Hall of Fame, and was having maybe one of the best seasons of his career at
He
32
really
years
was,
old
man. It
at
is crazy
17
what he's been doing
sacks.
this year.
I mean, 17 sacks at that age is unheard of. He's like gotten, he really came out and was motivated. He was the only bright spot for the Chargers this season in really any sort of real capacity. But they got Noah Gray over there to help him, give him a chip. And Tooney gives up strength and length to Mack. A lot of tackles give up, he's stronger than a lot of tackles, but he's got the length on Tooney also. So he does hit Tooney with the inside chest, and he starts to long arm him. This is not really where Joe wants to be at right here, and not a great rep. It couldn't. There's a lot of crap going on in there. I don't think Lucas Niang had a tremendous block there. The inside kind of got pushed back also, and Gabbard ends up on the ground. But just take a look at this, because he's hitting him with a long arm, and it looks like he's going to do that. Mind you, Khalil Mack was busting Wanya. He busted Jawan a couple of times. Anybody that played tackle for the Chiefs got it a little bit from that guy right there. But then something happened. Joe Tooney kind of showed why he's so valuable to the Chiefs, and it's because his ability to adjust in game. The dude has not played tackle a lot in a live game situation in the NFL, but he's smart enough to know what he has to do to adjust, and the Chiefs are comfortable with him enough to continue running their offense even with the second team. And here we go. It's pass play, no help from anyone. And Matt gets off, and Mac is immediately thinking, and Tooney's also just a slight bit laid off because he's going to give like a little feeler there to Caliendo. But, Mac is going right back to the long arm. Mac doesn't even throw anything else because he thinks, he's a lot shorter than I am. He's not as long. He's not as strong. I'm going to be able to do this. But Tooney, smart as he is, you can just see he's going to get in there, and as Mac throws the arm, Tooney's actually getting ready to kind of grab it, and he pops himself back and sits down, and he's got his hands on Mac's inside shoulder there, and now he's got him locked up tight. Well, this is going to actually open up enough time for Gabbert to step up and throw, and Tooney just gets a real nice block there on Mac, and Blaine Vick was running it all the way. Their Chiefs quarterbacks step up and scramble when they have to. Blaine Gabbert sure did, just like we know Chad Henne did. But, it's just the in-game adjustment from Tooney is just something else. I do really like that about him. He's not just going to be like, well, this guy's really good, I'm going to let him beat me. He came up with a way to beat him, and then he ended up having a pretty solid game out there on the left side. This is a real nasty block, to be honest, against one of the best in the league. It kind of reminded me of when he was at left tackle last time, and he was giving Trey Hendrickson the business a little bit out there. It's like Joe Tooney is one of the smartest, toughest players in the league. I don't always think he gets his due. You'll see a lot of the time people will be like, why do we pay a guard so much money? Because he's one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL, because he can do that when your back's against the wall, he can do that for you. And there's not a lot of guys that can.
So, what is there any truth, I guess, or what do you think about the take that, well, hey, because I've seen it on Twitter today, like, if you want your 5 best linemen out there potentially, and I guess this is in theory if Donovan Smith maybe isn't completely ready to go, but do you go Tooney at left tackle, Allegretti at left guard, or do you even think about that anyway? I don't know. Do you give anything to that?
We'll see how Donovan is doing. This could be something to monitor with him coming back, because we haven't seen him in weeks. It's been a minute, and now he's hopping back into this playoff game. I would keep more of an eye on him coming in, because I just feel like right now, the way the Chiefs are, I don't think they would want to move Taylor over to the left side and put Niang in the game in the playoffs. I think that if Donovan Smith is out there and he has another injury or something happens, and I think they can get away with it against the Dolphins pass rushers. I know that Justin Houston and his power rush are still kind of a thing. I don't really know what Melvin Ingram's been up to. really, and Emmanuel Ogba, but their pass rush has kind of diminished the last few weeks, to say the least, once Jalen Phillips got hurt. So it's going to be something to keep an eye on. I think they can get away with that. It's not ideal, to have to put in Allegretti at guard because you do downgrade on the interior quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I would just say, let's keep an open mind with that. And if something happens, I don't think they would hesitate to put him out there in a big spot.
Yeah, no, we just hope it doesn't look like 2022 much, where the offensive line was just patched together for the biggest game of the year. Let's hope for Wanye Morris, good recovery through the concussion protocol, and Donovan Smith, the next stinger, to be feeling good. But that's what we're doing now, is we're looking ahead. So let's do it here with the film preview. Let's look ahead to Chiefs Dolphins. Big matchup, obviously, the return of Tyreek. But, and this is where I want you to lead off for us on the Dolphins preview, because I think he's not the biggest key to the Dolphins offense in terms of individual players on Saturday, excuse me. I don't want to spoil it, but there's a certain player that I really feel like, and he didn't play the first time, and I feel like he's going to be a big key. So why don't you go ahead and talk to us about him?
Yeah, and I'm going to be talking about Devon Achane today. And the reason I am bringing this up is because he is explosive. The first 3 games of the season, when teams really didn't know who he was yet, when he went nuclear on the Broncos and some of those teams because they were playing all out to stop the pass, and all of a sudden the Dolphins came out and they give him some looks. And you'll just see right now, the Dolphins' toss packages are nasty. What they do when they can get like some of their linemen in space, their linemen aren't the greatest at pushing the pile, moving the line of scrimmage, but where they do excel at is blocking in space. And they have so many misdirections and motions. But Achane's just got that different kind of burst, man. He's got that electric speed out of the backfield. He doesn't have to build up to it or anything. He hits it and he just goes like he does here. And this isn't even like tremendously blocked up front. The tight end gets smoked. The tight end gets absolutely smoked here. He gets a decent block from the right guard. Austin Jackson, the tackle, is working up and he does a decent job. But I mean, you see like this tiny little seam, he's going to hit it. And yeah, you don't really coach things like that. It just kind of happens. He's breaking ankles out here. He knows he's going to score. And I think everyone else does by the time he gets to this point, because he's already got the angle, and so do his blockers. But this is kind of where this explosion comes from. And like I said, their toss game is nasty. When they run the ball, they kind of, with him, they're kind of taking away the middle of the defense, which is a strength for a team like Baltimore. They're kind of running the ball to the perimeter here on them. Their linebackers, like Roquan Smith, he gets caught up in the wash from all the down blocks, and then the pullers coming around the end, they get in there. This isn't really like a great show of what the Chiefs will do scheme wise, for what they do in Baltimore. I'm just showing you what he did against a very good defense, and the Ravens did blow these guys out. This was like the second or third play of the game. This was very much a live ball, we're playing situation. They come with the motion because Mike McDaniel does a lot of the same. He's coming from the Shanahan kind of power motion offense. They're going to run the ball. They're going to motion their blockers to create an advantage on the snap. He gets a good down block, and they're just covering guys up and creating space. And I mean, he's special out of the backfield. He doesn't need a whole lot of time to get going. 99 thinks he's got him, and all of a sudden, he's busting up the field. And he's 40 yards later, they're in the red zone. So with that, and this is also how they use him in the pass game. They run a lot of these like motions out of the backfield. Just some of these like travel motions out of the backfield they use him. And look, I mean, it's quick when you have to corral this guy. Your linebackers have to be willing, linebackers, defensive backs. Really, it's going to come down to the perimeter guys stopping him. You'd love to say, well, we're going to go plug up the middle and the interior defensive line is going to do a good job. This is a different kind of run game than, some of the things the Chiefs have seen in the past in the playoffs. We've seen the Chiefs have to try to find ways to bottle up like Derrick Henry, Kareem Hunts and Nick Chubb's, guys that are going to run between the tackles, run strong and whatnot.
But at the same time, just to jump in, like, looking at a play like this reminds me of a game earlier this year of like James Cook, right? When he was abusing the Chiefs as that kind of, electric back out of the backfield. There's a few times, a guy like an A-chain type back has really given the Chiefs problems, especially the linebackers, right? So I don't know. That's why I really feel like, yeah, he's a key player. We've kind of seen this already. The Chiefs struggle with kind of a juiced up back like him, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean he's way more juiced up. I mean, when you talk about explosion, he is, he might be one of the most explosive backs in the NFL. The thing is, though, he's not a high volume runner, and the more touches he gets is not really what they want to do. Raheem Mostert went down. That's not really, Raheem Mostert played a bigger role for them in their run game than a lot of people thought because he kind of set the table for what Achan does. Jeff Wilson does kind of the same, but even this last week elimination game against the Bills, Wilson got 9 carries and Achan got 10. So yeah, and the Dolphins, their interior offensive line's not very good. They don't create a lot of like in the tackle movement. I don't think they're that great, to be honest. And like I mentioned, it's their toss stuff that works a lot. Achan, he's not really going to try to go in here between the tackles. So that'd be somewhere where the Chiefs, I think, would have an advantage against him. But you got to get on him quick. And number 58, Quincy Williams for the Jets, really good linebacker. He recognizes this play quickly. It's man coverage. You see what he has to go over the top of, though. Plus, it looks like number 10 is in there somewhere. Oh, that's Waddle, not Tyreek, my bad. But still, he's got to have eyes on. You got to have your good cornerbacks. And I think that's something we'll see this week that could be big for stopping Achan is how comfortable the Chiefs are with Snead and McDuffie on Tyreek and Waddle and possible one-on-one situations depending on the down and distance. But this is what they're going to need from the linebackers this week. It's going to be a big Tranquil and Willie Gay week this week. This is where they need to have those two specifically step up. This week, I would have Leo Chenal like playing an EOL type spot. Nick Bolton, I'd honestly have him more in a Sam backer spot just to be able to make, because I think that would fit him a little bit better. But we need to have Tranquil or Willie, being a tent of stuff like this. And this is a great play by Williams. He gets over both the routes, closes in, makes the tackle before anything goes. And I'll just let these last couple of plays run out. But like you see, just get to him quick when they try to get the ball to the outside. Don't let him get going in space. And when they do get the toss off, set the edge, push everything back inside. And you just got to really try and hope that, you're going to be able to get there. I think that he's the guy I would be looking for this week. The Mike McDaniel throw some wrinkles, throw some different looks to. You haven't really, Tyreek, they're going to give him his respect. They're going to give Waddle his respect. They didn't see Achan the first time around. That'll be something to see. I will say, though, as cold as it's going to be, when they do get to him, they need to try to lay a lick on him right now because he's, a Texas guy, A&M guy. He's playing in Miami. This might be some of the coldest weather he's played in also. I'd maybe be trying to punch that football out a little bit if I were the Chiefs this week.
Well, you don't have to tell Justin Reed that. That dude is always laying the wood. And if I can remember the Dolphins game, the first Dolphins game, honestly, it was an emphasis point for him that he was laying the smackdown after the catch, at the catch point. I think that is a thing. You're right. I think they are going to play aggressive, the defensive backs, because of stuff like turning outside runs back in. They did that very well the first time, L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, but you're right. Achan's a different monster, a different animal, and he can kind of maybe get on you a little quicker. So that really is a key matchup to me. I'm glad you're highlighting it because I think if they can contain him and contain the run game and force a lot of third and longs, then that's containing Tyreek for the most part. If they make plays out of third and long, you got to tip your cap because, I do think Spags on a third and long, he's going to be winning those downs most of the time against this offense. So, as long as they get to those points, that's a success. Dimitri on Twitter said our edge rushers will contain the toss. I think Charles and Karlaftis have speed and a little bit of flex right there too. And then he mentioned Tranquil as well. So, I don't know. You think the edge rusher or the defensive ends play a big part in that as well?
I think they do in some instances, but this week I think it's more about the linebackers and kind of the slot cornerback or whoever's in there, kind of just or the safety for that matter, just because the Dolphins are so good at being able to get outside of the tackles and kind of take that aspect out of the run game and let Achan work. Definitely still important, though, for the defensive ends to be solid against the run.
Well, let's go to the other side of the ball because I'm excited for the Chiefs' offense this week to an extent because I think there's a lot of pressure on them to take advantage of the fact that Miami is down starter after starter after starter. You're talking about the top three pretty much edge rushers when you consider it's Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, and then Andrew Van Ginkel is now out, who's a playmaker off the edge for them. Jerome Baker, their middle linebacker, is out now, and we'll get to what his replacement looks like. I have some good clips of that. And then you also Xavier Howard will not return for this game. He's been hurt. He did play that first game against the Chiefs. He will not be in this game. And then you actually also saw Deshaun Elliott pop up on the injury report this week. They're starting free safety, or they kind of interchange. But all that to say, Dolphins are depleted, and what I think that's going to lead to on Saturday is a bunch of blitzing. And you've actually seen it the last couple weeks from them, but they have blitzed over 40% of opponents' dropbacks against the Bills and against the Ravens. They were blitzing the heck out of both teams. And it works here, right? And these clips are actually going to all work on Josh Allen. And Josh Allen's a pretty erratic player, right? But the thing I want to highlight on these plays is the Dolphins do a pretty good job of, and this is in the red zone, so it's easier to do, but they look like they're just in a normal alignment, right? They don't show blitz. And then at pretty late in the cadence, all of a sudden, boom, you have three off-ball defenders coming that you maybe didn't necessarily expect. And that's where you get Josh Allen to hurry. Yeah, that's what they're going to do. Vic Fangio is going to play his too high shell. He's going to play from depth, but he's going to, when he does want to blitz, which they are blitzing more than they usually do. Fangio is not usually a traditional a guy that blitzes a ton. They're doing it out of necessity, in my opinion. Losing Jalen Phillips, a few weeks ago, and now Bradley Chubb in this game is actually when they lost him. So you're going to see, them continue to send blitzes late in the cadence, and it messed up Josh Allen. It led to some plays, and hey, we can't act like Mahomes hasn't been perfect in those situations this year. There's times where the blitz has definitely forced him off his spot, and he's made some interesting plays, but I trust him to take advantage of the blitz, and this is exactly how he can. Because I do think the one thing about Vic Fangio's defense, playing from that depth that they traditionally do, is as long as you're patient as a quarterback and you can kind of identify, there's always going to be a receiver, or not always, I should say, but a lot of times you can attack by just getting an underneath route, beating a guy that's picking him up from depth. This safety has no chance of beating this underneath route if it's thrown quickly because he's picking him up from 15 yards depth, because pre-snap, he still wants to show, okay, we're not blitzing. We're just in a one high look. We're not necessarily blitzing. Boom, all of a sudden they're sending three. It's cover zero. He's picking up that receiver, and Josh Allen does a good job of getting the ball off. I think they get a first down here. But there's more examples of this where, right here, Lamar, this is the problem with the Dolphins blitzing from depth, I should say, because when 51 comes, he has so far to run, even if he has a free lane, he's not going to get to Lamar by the time Lamar can throw to replace him, right? Where he's going to throw where 51 was. So that's another thing Mahomes can do. But that's also on the receivers, right? Rashad Bateman does a good job here of sitting quick and sitting firm into the spot. Chiefs receivers have to be able to do that. And that's a key part of this, is beating this blitz doesn't only take Mahomes, right? It takes the receivers to be on the same page, sitting in windows, making sure they're in the right spot. This is another example of that backside safety from depth back here. He has to pick up this tight end on the crosser. Imagine if this is Rashee Rice or something. And this is probably what's going to happen if it is Rashee Rice. Little touchdown. I think he gets in here. Yeah, he does. So, yeah, I mean, it's just something where the Dolphins aren't going to necessarily show you blitz before the snap. And so Mahomes is going to have to pick up on that. The whole offense is going to have to pick up on that. But the way they can take advantage of that is by throwing to these guys underneath routes that are being picked up by guys that are still playing at that, 12-yard depth, because he is just trying to look like a safety. All of a sudden, he's in man coverage with the tight end, isn't able to get there in time, and that's a touchdown. So we could see that kind of play. Rashee Rice, I think he is in for a big game, because I do think the Dolphins are going to, pay attention to Kelsey. I think in the postseason, teams are still going to respect the heck out of Kelsey. The other thing about the Dolphins is they cannot handle pre-snap motion very well, I should say. These last 2 weeks, they've had a few egregious examples of just leaving guys open because pre-snap motion kind of shifted assignments, right? Here's Zay Flowers' big touchdown against them. And what you see, and actually I have more clips of 45, but 45, he actually, I think he ends up doing the right thing at last, but I think he just ends up carrying the wheel out too far. Eventually, he should trust 33 to pick that up because he needs to be in here covering, I believe, again, this is kind of speculation. It's hard to tell because he does go with him, but you can see he's backtracking, trying to get back to that guy, realizing he over pursued. But I think Eli Apple, because he sees 45 come all the way out, I think he kind of says, oh, shoot, I need to get back in. And so that just causes a whole mess. And then all of a sudden, Zay Flowers is wide open. But this isn't even the worst, or it actually probably is the worst one, I should say. But it isn't the only one the Dolphins defense messed up on with pre-snap motion. Here, they just all run into each other, and it leads to a big play for the Bills. And here you're going to see Zay Flowers come wide open off the pre-snap motion. Just no one picks him up. Just kind of a blown play. And so you kind of see some of that on their tape. The Chiefs are definitely going to use their pre-snap motion. So that's something that you can expect. Just try to throw them off. And the last thing though, I do want to show is just in the Ravens game, Jerome Baker was also not playing. And so the Dolphins had to go to number 45, Duke Riley, as the backup middle linebacker. This is from the opening drive. This was like one of the first plays of the game, pretty much. All these plays are from the opening drive. Just abuses him on the wheel route here, catches him on the pick route, and gets a big play from the running back. Actually gets called back for some reason. I think maybe I'm not sure why, but it didn't affect that play. But just obviously, getting caught up in the pick. But then here, he's in the screen pass, just gets blown up, and lets 43 get loose. And this is all on the opening drive. And then to finish the drive off, they go back to all reliable wheel route, gets beat by the pick, touchdown. So 45 right out the gate gets abused by Baltimore, and that's something that Andy Reid loves to do, right? Is pick on linebackers at the second level, but it didn't stop. And so that's where I really feel like the Chiefs, again, this is a Jerome Baker replacement. He's the one that's going to be playing for him, and he just looks so uncomfortable in pass coverage. Justice Hill here, shakes him off the route and gets a big gain. Here, he fails to pick up the tight end coming across. Goes right across his face and just doesn't even register that a play action pass could be happening. And it's definitely his fault. There's just nowhere else on that side that you can expect to be picking that up. Because 5 has that, he has to be covering that. And so, 45, he's definitely going to be a guy to watch for as a Chiefs fan because I think the Chiefs are going to try to target him with screens. They're going to try to target him in the pass game with tight ends, with running backs, because he seems like a liability. And out of all the Dolphins injuries, I feel like that's the one that they can exploit the most. That's out of the edge rushers, right? I mean, they're going to have a bunch of, veterans, guys on the brink of retirement rushing off the edge for him. So I don't know, Caleb, how do you feel about the Dolphins?
And since you've shown that film, since that Ravens game, they've got even more linebackers out. I think they said Van Ginkel is going to be out this week also. Yeah. I mean, they are really the walking wounded over there. They've lost their key pass rusher. They've lost their key secondary player, and they're down their entire linebacking core at this point. And, Duke Riley's an inexperienced player, probably a special teams career guy being thrust into a big-time spot. He's going to see some stuff this week because I would be willing to bet that Andy Reid, the first few drives of the game, he's going to show some stuff they haven't really shown yet this season. That's kind of what the Chiefs do. That's how they attack people in the playoffs. So, you got to attack that kind of stuff. It comes to my mind, what if the Chiefs just lined up and pounded it with Isaiah Pacheco, their guy from New Jersey who's used to cold weather, who might want to just run the football and be angry and make the defender, punish the defense a little bit. I mean, this could turn into that kind of game. Also, that ball is going to be hard as a rock out there.
Yeah, no, I think it's a big Pacheco game. just because you're right, especially in the cold, like, you want your offensive line to be, moving forward. You want your offensive line to be firing out. You don't want them to be, backpedaling, pass protecting too much, or just thinking too much, right? Honestly, just thinking too much. Really just go out, bully them. Because I really feel like, because the Dolphins aren't, they have their starting defensive tackles, but, I don't think Christian Wilkins and Raekwon Davis and Zach Seiler are dominant run defenders or anything. I think they're more just playmakers. In general, they can beat a block, get to the quarterback. But I think they're definitely, the Chiefs' offensive line can come in and dominate this matchup up front. And those outside zone runs, they may work a little better this week. With having their depleted edge defense. Guys like Melvin Ingram, they're going to wear out. Justin Houston's going to wear out if he plays too much.
I would still be a little weary of Justin Houston on those third down situations because our tackles who are likely to play don't always handle power so well. And I'm guessing he's still got that power rush.
If he's got anything, it's that power. I mean, that dude probably still, what did he power cleaned like some crazy number and called like 460 pounds or something ridiculous. It was like the record at the time. Shout out Justin Houston. Honestly, one of my favorite players in Chiefs history. Honestly, just because, growing up in that era, seeing him get the 22 sacks that year, that was cool. And now he's coming to try to spoil our Saturday night. So that'll be a fun storyline. Just lots of stuff fun about this game. So again, I'm encouraging Chiefs Kingdom. If you're watching, you're on the fence, get out there, bundle up. I promise you won't die. Maybe I shouldn't promise that, but it might be the peak of the season. This might be the best game of the season. It might be the most fun of the season. There really hasn't been that peak, that marquee game yet this year. I feel like that really defined the season, and maybe this game will lead to more of those. But I could see this game, just ending up being kind of the highlight of the year. So beating Tyreek in Arrowhead. So let's hope we do that. Let's hope Chiefs bring it home, get to the divisional round in the playoffs. So appreciate you guys joining us. Caleb is going to have he has the Joe Tooney review out now. He's going to have some Dolphin stuff out, just what we talked about today, out on the site. We'll have the other Dolphins preview stuff coming up before Saturday night, so make sure you check that out. And yeah, we'll just catch you next time, hopefully breaking down a Chiefs win over the Dolphins next week. All right, y'all. Have a good night.